Welcome to Colonial Church. I am Pat Peterson, moderator of Colonial Church, and I'm speaking to you right now in advance of our annual meeting. We're doing everything different this year. We're sending out the presentations ahead of time so that you have time to look at them and think about them, come up with questions and comments that you have. And then we will still have our annual meeting, which will be on Sunday, April 26th, in a live YouTube presentation immediately following our worship service. You will receive many of the materials for our annual meeting by Wednesday, April 15th. Let's begin our time in prayer together. Gracious, never-changing God, how thankful we are that we don't need a telephone, FaceTime, or a Zoom meeting to talk to you or to listen to you. We ask that you be with us now in this time and place as we seek you, your guidance, and your presence. Be with us as we seek to do your will today and always. In the name of the one who is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, Jesus Christ. Amen. Even though we cannot meet in person, we need and encourage your participation. Here's how you can be involved. First of all, pray. We need to pray for our nation, for this uncertain time, and especially for our church and the decisions that need to be made regarding the future. Listen to the presentations. They will be sent out on April 15th. They'll be sent to you via email. You will have an opportunity to respond, so send your questions and comments to moderator@colonialchurch.org. Questions and answers will be posted on our website with daily answers. Attend the Zoom Town Hall meeting on Thursday, April 16th at 7 p.m. This will give you an opportunity to ask questions to all those who have made presentations. It's very important that you vote. A paper ballot will be mailed to all members, and we need those mailed back by April 24th. This is a change from the voice vote and show of hands, but Minnesota state law does allow us to do this. We will still need a quorum through this method, so please send in your ballot in the enclosed envelope. You will be voting to approve the 2021 budget, to elect church officers and committee chairs, and to approve a request from the Blessing Initiative. We also encourage you to attend the annual meeting, which will be on April 26th on YouTube, immediately following the worship service. We will now proceed to our presentations. You will hear from Senior Minister Jeff Lindsay, Foundation President Ben Stone, representatives from the Blessing Initiative who have a special request, and from Treasurer Jason Phillips. Just as a reminder, here's the calendar leading up to our April 26th annual meeting. Wednesday, April 15th, ballots will be mailed to every member. You need to mail them back, please, by April 24th. The annual report will be available in the e-news and on the website. Annual meeting presentations will be emailed to the congregation. On Thursday, April 16th, we will have a town hall meeting to answer questions about the budget or any other presentation that you've heard. We will send out the meeting ID and the phone number, but it is listed here as well. Between April 15th and the 24th, again, questions and comments will be received and they will be posted on our website. Please send them to moderator@colonialchurch.org. Thank you again for participating in our virtual presentations for the annual meeting. We will now proceed to our presentations. You will hear first from Senior Minister Jeff Lindsay. Jeff?
Thank you, Pat Peterson, our wonderful moderator. I don't know what we would have done this past year without the leadership, the guidance, the wisdom, and just the person of who Pat Peterson is. Grateful for her work and her faithful service to this church. Looking forward to the years to come for sure as we see Colonial Church living out its call that God has given us. That being said, this is not where I wanted to be or where I wanted our church to be as we gathered for my first annual meeting as your pastor. That still sounds kind of funny to say that I'm your pastor, but I could not be more proud to say that. I could not be more proud of this church, grateful for this church, recognizing and understanding and knowing deep in my heart of who this church has helped me to become, what this church has done around the world, and who we are as a community. So, my friends, I'm excited to share with you, even in these strange days, in person, via the stream, my hopes for our future. Here we go. Let's just start where we are. A few months ago, we were talking about the fact that we needed to think about becoming a virtual church. But I promise you, it wasn't even close to the top of our list of all the things that we needed to do as we reorganized and rethought and remobilized Colonial Church. But here we are. Here we are. A few weeks ago, we started a little rough, but man, we've gotten better over the past few weeks, haven't we? And we know that we have because you have been there with us. Hundreds and hundreds of you have shown up at Bible studies, at services, and in meetings with each other, using the tools that we have in the days that we live, being the church, doing the work. It has been exciting to get the feedback from you as you have participated in our worships. I got dozens and dozens of emails and text messages from you about our Easter service. Yeah, we weren't together in the meeting house together, but we were together, and it actually felt a little like we were together on an Easter morning. I heard from 7 different states and at least one other country that our worship services were making a difference. We're proclaiming Jesus' good name and gathering us together as his people. So, recognizing the season that we're in, recognizing who we are as a church, we have to capture this moment. We have to be sure of who we are and do the best we can to keep going forward. So capturing this moment for you, I just want to give you an idea of kind of what we've been doing and how we've been doing it this past year, but also these past few months. And then I want to give us a glimpse as we look into the future, a future that has hope. We've just had a wonderful preaching series that reminds that we have God's hope interrupting all kinds of life circumstances and situations. We have hope, a real hope, a certain hope. One for us at the cross that we just celebrated at Easter, held for us each day well into eternity. I could not be more grateful to our strong council this past year. Great leaders out of the life of our church, sharing their ideas, their opinions, praying for our church and leading us. The deacons have done a great job. Even as we moved into this virus season, they went from in-person, loving and caring, inviting people into the life of this church, to being on the phone, continue to care for those that we love. We've got a welcoming task force that is already thinking about when the doors of this church open, how they're going to invite people in and invite them in well, and then care for them after they're in the building, working with the deacons and other leaderships, the ushers and others, to make sure that people coming through the front door have a great experience. Connect with us with the hopes that they may join our ranks. I could not be more excited about this blessing initiative. $1 million set aside by this congregation to do good for the world around us. Blessed to be a blessing. Oh my goodness. I can only imagine. Actually, I can't even begin to imagine all of what's going to happen in this great gift that you've entrusted to a great group of people that will do good for Jesus' name. Well, you've already seen the work of some of the wonderful members of our church that have come out of the pews to be involved on our staff. I'm so grateful for Paul Bertelson and Mark Patrick and Tony Jones and others who have said, hey, how can we help? How can we help in this new season of the life of this church? Paul Bertelson mobilizing a wonderful task force around missions. Mark Patrick going to hospitals and visiting nursing homes and reaching out to our members. Tony Jones caring for our confirmation class in such beautiful, wonderful ways. Many of you have not even begun to meet and understand and know who our youth staff is. And I can't wait till you can shake their hands and look them in the eye and be grateful for the work that they're doing with the kids that are already a part of our life and already looking towards ways that they can mobilize and encourage kids in our community. Andrew Zhao and Leah Appleton joined Madison Chow in really being excited about how we can do youth ministry well in the life of this church. Well, some of you have joined Christian Wynn in his classes. He is such a wonderful teacher, has a pastor's heart and a teaching mind, and that combination caring for our congregation, challenging us to grow deeper in our relationship with Jesus. These additions and others have really helped us focus on who we are as a church, where we are as a church in this season, but also in the days to come, and helping us begin to think about how we will be the church in the days to come. As a staff, we are thinking about how we are going to focus our attentions. What are going to be our priorities in the upcoming year, maybe in the upcoming years? We want to do a great job as we continue to care for children and youth in our church. And so mobilizing our staff and our team, focusing on children, youth, and families, creating wonderful program here in our building, but also thinking about ways that they can reach out to the community and create opportunities and events and experiences that students in the southwest suburban area can experience and then grow in their faith. We're going to continue to think about how we can do worship well and even better than we already do, capitalizing on our long tradition of traditional worship. We're going to look for new ways that we can even do that better, how we can mobilize some of our resources and talents that are already in the life of this church and look outside of our building, how we can do traditional worship better. We're also going to start thinking about that second service, that service that we might call a contemporary service or a modern, I don't know what we're going to call it, but it's going to be that second service that's going to meet different needs of the community around us and draw them into the life of the church. We're actually even thinking about starting that second service virtually. Can you believe it? I said that word again. Virtually, a second service that we can already begin to see who that community might be that we can work with to invite others into the life of our church. And outreach. We're going to continue to do what historically this church has done and reach out. Not only just missionally in the sense that we are going to mobilize our gifts, abilities, and talents in such a way that we can bless the community and the world around us, but also think about outreach, how we can get Colonial Church outside the doors of this building into the community, into the country, literally into the world. Isn't that exciting to think about? There's no limits to what this congregation can think up, that they can plan and dream about, and they can mobilize and do together. That's just a bit of the places that we're going to be focusing our attention on. And I want you to know this. We need you. We need you, Colonial Church. We need you who currently call themselves members of this church and regular attenders, and we're going to need all those who are going to come through our doors, because we're going to continue to be the church. So will you pray with us? Will you get personally involved, find a place in the life of this church where you can connect? And will you financially invest? Will you invest in the vision and future of this church? God is leading us. God is calling us. God is equipping us. God is illuminating the path before us, and he's going to draw us into our wonderful future ahead. I am so confident of that. But we've got to do it together. Will we? I know we will. We are going to get through this season. We're going to live differently because of it. And we will. We will. Together, be ready to care for and shape the future ahead. Amen. Amen.
Greetings, Colonial Church. My name is Ben Stone, and I have had the privilege of serving as president this past year of the foundation. As a board, we had a very good year, working toward more visibility and transparency for the foundation, as well as collaborating with the rest of the church's leadership. There are a few things from this past year that I would like to highlight. First, I would like to talk briefly about the performance of our investments. With the help of our trusted investment advisor, Compass Capital, for the calendar year 2019, the value of the entire portfolio, which includes the foundation and Colonial Seniors, Inc., increased from $7.58 million to $8.85 million for a return of 16.64%. For the first quarter of 2020, after adjusting for the funding of the Blessing Initiative, the overall portfolio declined in value to $7.29 million, a loss of approximately 6.9%. Second, I want to mention a few of our accomplishments. We amended our bylaws, bringing them current, as well as adapting them to allow for more durability and transparency. At the same time, we created and adapted a set of standing rules which include our current operating procedures, descriptions of our various funds, our current investment policy, new confidentiality and conflict of interest policies, and a new mission statement. One of our goals for the coming year is to update the foundation's presence on Colonial's website and to include all of those documents. We also funded the Blessing Initiative. Beginning last fall, there were numerous discussions within both the foundation and council about the size and timing of the funding. Once it was decided and approved by you, the congregation, the foundation board determined to fund it as soon as possible. The process of funding with cash from equity sales and short-term fixed income securities transfers was initiated on February 18th and completed prior to any significant market sell-off. Finally, I would like to take time to thank those foundation board members who have completed their 3 years of service. Kent Knack, Dick Schmoker, Kristen Gear, and Ken Grooms. A special thank you, too, to Mike Heim and Paul Kavanaugh, who have been board members of both the Foundation and Colonial Seniors, Inc. since 2012, holding a variety of leadership positions. Without the continued dedication of Mike and Paul, as well as the many others who were instrumental in the entire process of the waters, we would not have had the privilege to be a part of funding the Blessing Initiative. Thank you. Now Lance is going to give you an update on the Blessing Initiative.
Good morning, Colonial Church. I hope you're doing well in this unprecedented shelter-in-place period. Just wanted to give you a real quick update on the Blessing Initiative. We're still at it. We're still meeting weekly via Zoom and still trying to accomplish as much as we can. We are ready to go. However, we are waiting for the lifting of the shelter-in-place protocol. Since we're looking for this initiative to be member engagement and high energy with lots of engagement of the church and also corresponding fun activities, we thought it would be better if we could do it when we actually can physically be together. So we're looking for, in the Blessing Initiative, we're looking for long-term strategic initiative partners, partners that we can have a long-term relationship with, where we can be a part of their organization and they can be a part of ours, and we can kind of grow together. However, given the current situation and the coronavirus issues that have come up recently in our community, the Blessing Initiative has decided to do a small pivot and to do a bit of immediate relief work due to the current need in our community. So what I want to do now is transition over to Linda Nivall, who's going to tell you a little bit more about this pivot. And then after Linda speaks, you're going to hear from Paul Bertelson, who's going to tell you a little bit more detail about what Linda speaks. So keep up the great ideas. For more information on the Blessing Initiative and any recent updates, they'll be online. But until we can meet again, keep thinking of your great ideas.
Hello, everyone. As you all know, through the winter months, the Blessing Initiative team has been developing a process that we plan to unveil this spring. At the beginning of March, the health and economic crisis our nation and the world faced was becoming more intense. And by the final week of March, unemployment claims had reached 3.3 million. I went to our weekly meeting carrying a deep burden of sorrow for all the suffering in our community. I felt a strong call to do something. It was clear to me that our team needed to respond, but I wasn't sure how. I decided to see what the temperature in our group was before saying anything. We started with a time of checking in for each of us. When it was my turn, I felt that sense of call once again, and I spoke out. I told everyone about the sorrow I was carrying. The world was different now. We couldn't continue to move forward as if nothing had changed. We needed to act with more urgency and boldness. We are a blessed people. We have so much to give. We could do something, although I didn't know exactly what. It turned out that everyone else was feeling the same need. So we discussed the difficulty people might have applying for grants in this time. We also talked about the initiative from the Ministry Action Team for Missions and the staff to dedicate $100,000 for immediate needs in our community. And then the idea came. Why not double that amount and give an additional $200,000 to these same ministry partners? We took this idea to Paul Bertelson and his team and asked if they thought these same organizations had the capacity to accept a larger gift. Paul talked with each one of them, and he came back with a beautiful proposal. This was exactly what I had imagined. We need to give with a spirit of generosity and blessing to our community. And we need to trust God that our support will be used well where it is needed most. Paul Bertelson will tell you more about our proposal.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? And oh so sobering watching the evening news and seeing the lines of people trying to get help at local food shelves. The Blessing Initiative team asked me to explore how we together as Colonial Church could generously give to our mission partners. Partners on the front line. Partners responding to the need right now. I reached out to 4 of our longtime mission partners to ask, how could we help? And here's the gist of our proposal. Of all our current local ministry partners, the Sheridan story has the greatest reach and has grown rapidly in response to significant needs. Their distribution through individual backpacks is a highly effective way to deliver food regularly to children and their families. The need has grown significantly in the COVID-19 crisis. In response, the Sheridan story has added distribution at 26 local Ys, along with 31 school districts they are currently serving in. And in conversation with founder and executive director Rob Williams, he stated that currently the Sheridan story is filling 21,000 bags a week. And they see that number jumping to 25,000 bags in June. Rob stated that actually the need is closer to 35,000 bags per week as the effects of unemployment start to settle in. Furthermore, he stated the main barrier is raising the funding to respond to the need. A gift from Colonial of $100,000 would be a huge boost to them. And with a high degree of confidence, I believe the Sheridan story is well situated to effectively utilize a major gift from Colonial. And with 47 years of history behind it, Veep is well situated too, and trusted to respond effectively to the COVID-19 crisis. Speaking with current CEO Joe McDonald, Veep has been able to leverage thousands of volunteers to deliver their services broadly. Their focus for delivering their services has been through food distribution, advocacy, and emergency housing support. Joe believes that as the effects of widespread unemployment are realized, significantly more people already on the edge will be unable to pay rents coming due in the next several months. Veep's counseling and mediation efforts with landlords and tenants matched with emergency rental assistance is an effective strategy to stave off future evictions. I believe a $50,000 gift to Veep in support of their emergency housing efforts will extend greatly the effect of their counseling and mediation efforts. And Community Emergency Services, or CES, has faithfully served its South Central Minneapolis neighbors for years. As a standard practice, CES has offered a listening ear and a caring hand to the oftentimes desperate needs of those who come through its doors. In conversation with Development Director Chris Nelson, I learned a number of CES food shelf visits has more than doubled in the last several weeks. And with some adaptation, they have continued to be able to serve almost 300 seniors with daily Meals on Wheels. Chris has concerns, though, that with enhanced social distancing, more seniors will slip through the cracks of isolation. A gift of $25,000 could be used to help provide consistent staffing support in identifying and serving more seniors via Meals on Wheels. With the growth of Meals on Wheels seniors, increased federal funded admin dollars will help sustain the additional support going forward. Colonial's gift of $25,000 will provide a boost beyond words to our friends at CES, who are courageously serving daily in the front lines of the crisis. And lastly, families moving forward. It is increasingly difficult for families moving forward to indeed move families forward when the model for serving them has been interrupted. For several weeks, Families Moving Forward has been housing families in hotels. This emergency option has proven to be lacking in providing the kind of care and protections families have consistently received in churches. In response, Laura Vitelli, Families Moving Forward's VP, informed me that they are seeking out a church, like a Colonial, to house up to 6 families for up to 4 weeks. Families Moving Forward intends to provide 24-hour, round-the-clock supervision, along with help from the church in supplying meals. They believe this will allow Families Moving Forward a much better opportunity to care for families. A gift of $25,000 will assist Families Moving Forward to break through the interruption of care families have experienced and know once again the love of the church community. Well, that's it. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of need. And Colonial has a unique opportunity to generously stand in the gap. And I pray we consider doing so now.
Hello, Colonial Church. I hope this finds you well. I wish I were able to deliver this to you in person, but those aren't the times that we're in right now. It's been my pleasure to serve as your treasurer, and this is my 2nd year. And the work I've been able to do with the staff, the finance committee, and the council has been a great joy, even in challenging times like these. So before I start my treasurer's report, I want to just give you the reminder that I give myself often, that the church, it's not a business, and it's not a not-for-profit either, or at least a normal not-for-profit. Yes, we have budgets and financial statements, we have not-for-profit status, but we're different. As God's body on earth, our budget, our financials, are just the combination of all of our resources, the resources we've given in the past, the resources we're going to give in the future, and what we're doing with them together. And so the budget's a reflection of our priorities and our values and what is most important to us. And so we measure the budget in dollars and cents, but more importantly, we measure our work as a church in the impacts, many of which can't be quantified. And so with that reminder, I go into a discussion of our business, but in a sense, our business is changing the world. It's growing in Christ and serving others. And so the real measure of our financial position is in the way that we are loving God and loving others, living out that great commandment. And so with that, let me begin. And I'll start with a review of the last year. And I've prepared some slides that we'll use to guide us through this. There's even more detail in your annual report, so please reference that. And we'll also be having a town hall this Thursday to answer any questions. There are also vehicles for you to submit questions online, because you may very well have some questions about the budget that we're going to put forward. So with that, we'll go into a quick review of last year. So when you look at our last year, it was an interesting year. We started the year and spent our first quarter, really, our first 9 months, moving along normally. Our budget was, we were a little behind on giving through the first 10 months of the year, but that's kind of normal. We typically catch up at the end. March and April are some of our biggest months. April is our second biggest month historically to December. And so we expected to kind of land the year from a giving perspective where we usually do, which is a strong finish and land near to budget. But that didn't happen this year. We trailed a little bit throughout the course of the year. And then we had a meaningful drop-off in March and April, as you would imagine, as we weren't able to gather together as we normally do. And so we saw a drop-off in our giving, and we've made a really conservative estimate of what April will look like. We hope that it will be better, and there is still time to change that with 2 Sundays remaining. But we've put together our financial projections with some realism and some acknowledgement that we can't do church the way we normally do, and that has an impact on giving. Not to mention the fact that many in our congregation are feeling the effects of what's going on in the economy, and we want to understand and respect and have compassion for that. When you look at expenses for the year, those were right on budget. The staff managed to the budget very well. There were some areas of the budget that were ahead and some that were behind. We had some ups and downs in the staffing budget, and we'll talk more about that. But all in all, the expenses landed right where we expected. It was just giving that was behind, and some of that was attributable to what we've had occur in our world over the last 2 months. And so even with that challenging finish to the year, our financial position is just amazingly strong. We are so generously resourced as a church. And so we'll finish this year with $1,200,000 in the bank in financial reserves. And that doesn't even count the $1 million that the foundation has given to the church for the Blessing Initiative. So right now in the bank we have $2.2 million and are going to be spending down, as you heard from the Blessing Initiative report, some of that foundation money immediately to support needs in our community. And so over the course of the last several years, we've completed a number of capital projects. We had investments that needed to be made in our building. We've repaired the parking lot, we've replaced the roof, we finished that this year. We've replaced and upgraded the organ, as well as renovating the men's and women's bathrooms. We've made improvements to the HVAC system, all sorts of deferred maintenance and improvements in our building. And so we've made big investments in our building over the last several years to make it, to restore it to what it needed to be, but also to enhance its functions for the life of our church. And as you'll see as we talk about this next year's budget, we're looking to make investments in different ways, less in the building this year and more in the staff and the programming. All right, so with that, let's talk about our approach to next year's budget. And so, as I just said, we've made investments. We've made investments in our building over the last few years with the excess reserves in the church's financial position. This year, we intend to put forward an investment budget. That was an investment budget that we planned to put forward before COVID-19 turned our world upside down, and through much prayer, reflection, and lots of discussion. That's the budget we want to move forward with this year, despite all of the uncertainties in the world around us. And so you'll see that on the next few slides, as we talk about those financial investments, that these investments really are in the future of our church. who we're going to be, who we're going to draw in, who we're going to impact in the community. And so we've laid down a wonderful foundation, but the investments that we want to make now are really in the future of the church and in staff and program that will facilitate our growth. And so we're also just realistic about this budget from an income perspective. As we saw a slowdown at the end of the year, we're expecting to start the year slow as well from a giving perspective. We're also expecting that some of our other income, facility income in particular, will be down year over year. We're not content with that, but I think that's realistic right now. There are headwinds in the economy. There are pressures and challenges that our congregation is feeling, but we're not going to be content with that. So John Seberg, as you'll hear more about, is convening a stewardship committee. And for the first time in a long time, we're really going to engage in that process of asking our congregation to be generous. And we're going to show you some reasons that you should be. Now, we know that not everybody can be. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to be struggling in these coming months. But that's not true of everybody in our congregation. We're remarkably fortunate. And that stewardship committee is going to engage in asking people to give as they're able, not beyond what they're able, but as they're able. And so we have some really generous people. And I think as we put in front of them the opportunities that we have, they will respond. And if that's not where you are, that ask is not for you. But if you are able to give more, we're going to ask. And so as we move into this year, we want to be realistic about that. The result of that, having income assumptions that are very conservative, is that we are going to invest the reserves of the church. I mentioned to you that we have $1.2 million in reserves. We are looking and asking the congregation to approve a budget that substantially invests those reserves in our work this year. That is not the easiest decision to ask you to make. That's a decision that gave the finance committee, the council, the staff much pause. It gave us pause even before the slowdown and the disruption that came with the virus. But it gives us even more now. But we also believe that what God is calling us to do is every bit as important, if not more so, in a time like this. And we do have the resources. And so we're asking you to approve a budget that commits a meaningful part of them, knowing that there is risk in that, but also knowing that there is risk in not doing that. But what we are asking you to do is to entrust the staff, the finance committee, and the council with this budget, knowing that we will be revisiting it throughout the course of the year on a quarterly basis and making sure that spending is appropriate given the changing circumstances, because we don't know what will happen with the economy. We don't know what will happen with our ability to gather together. And so we are going to make wise decisions about how we spend this budget. And some of it we may not be able to spend, but we're asking you to approve it to give us the flexibility and the freedom to spend it. With that, I'll go into just a little bit more details about what this means in terms of numbers. And so what you'll see, and you have more detail in the annual report that you can reference, but just in summary, what we're assuming is a slight decrease in our total income, as I had mentioned. We're going to assume that giving is flat. We're going to assume that our other income, which is primarily facility-related income, goes down some because we know that it's going to be more complicated to have events and that our tenants are going to be under stress as well, those who pay us rent. And so what we're proposing is to take $595,000 from the church's reserves to plug that gap in the budget and to take that money that you have given in the past and that we have not spent and put it into this year's budget to fund the investments that we want to make. And so a real simple way of presenting it is just to really compare what is different between last year's budget and this year's budget. And what you'll see is the biggest single line item is that there is incremental spending on our staff. So we've invested in several new positions, all of whom are on staff now. You've seen them around, but they were not in last year's budget. They've been added since. And we're also adding some program costs that will facilitate that new staff being able to do what it is that we're asking them to do. I'll go into some more details into what that looks like as well when we get to the next slide. We also are getting a little bit of relief this year. The headwinds that the coronavirus have created resulted in some congressional action at the federal level. And so we are getting a CARES payroll tax credit that will help offset some of the headwind that we're feeling. And so that's going to give us some relief in this year's budget. But all of that is a substantial increase over prior years. And so we understand that is a big ask and a risk. But that's what we say is one of our core values, is risking the messy path of faith together. And that is what we're going to do this year if we approve this budget. All right, I'll move to the next slide now, where I've outlined a few of the key specific investments in the future of our church. You'll see that there's a lot of new positions, and you'll note that some of them are full-time and some of them are part-time. But what I think you will see is a few key themes as you look at these positions, is that they are very much an investment, not just in the church as it is now. All of these positions benefit the church as it is now, but they are very focused on the church that we want to be and the people that are not here yet that will come, if we are who it is that we say we want to be. So you'll see that we're making massive investments in youth and young adults and younger families through the addition of Andrew and Leah. We're making significant investments in education by taking Christian from a part-time contract worker to making him a full-time part of our staff. We added a communications manager. You've seen some of the impacts. One of the greatest impacts you can see of these changes in staff is in what our first service looked like that first Sunday that we weren't able to meet as a group. It was an iPad and Facebook Live, which was great. We did the best that we could, but you now can see what in just a couple of weeks our staff has been able to do with technology to make our worship services something that bless us all, even when we can't be together. And those investments will benefit us not just in this time, but they are going to be the investments that make us the church of the future. And that's not to say that the past isn't important, but this church has evolved over time, and some of these investments are really, really important for us to be the church that we can be in the future and to bring in the people in our community that will be the future of this church. You'll see, too, just some wonderful creativity. So the additions of Mark and Paul and Tony and Michelle, we identified that we have these amazingly gifted people in our congregation, and we had some real needs around connections, some needs around missions, some needs around visitation and caring for our population. And we just took people from our congregation and gave them part-time jobs. So it's incredibly cost-effective, but we're getting some of the best people at those specific things from our own congregation who needed no onboarding and are deploying them into the work of our congregation. So again, it's our pooling of our resources to do good work and remarkable creativity. A few other key things that you'll see in this budget is that we've set aside funds for a second service. That is not an inexpensive proposition, but it's a really important proposition, again, for the future of our church. So funds for the musicians, for communications to let the community know. We've increased the missions budget. This is a time where we must continue to be generous and give in our community. And so combined with the operating budget and what the Blessing Initiative is doing, this is going to be a banner year in generosity for our church. And as you heard from the Blessing Initiative team, they're trying to get that money out even faster to meet needs in our community. And so this is going to be an amazing year of generosity in our community. And last but not least, there are going to be some sprinkled throughout the budget, some increases in program budget to facilitate. Having more staff means more ability to do programming, and so you're going to see that in youth and adult education. And so all around there are going to be significant investments. But again, they're all investments in doing ministry and getting into the community and communicating about what we are doing. And so we ask you to approve a budget that is a stretch, no doubt about it. There are going to be vehicles for you to ask questions through the website, through the town hall meeting. But again, in speaking for the staff, the finance committee, and our council, we believe this is the right thing to do. We believe that it's a bigger risk to not do this than it is to do this. And so I am so grateful to be your treasurer. I'm so thankful for the people of this church and what they have done in the past, and I am so excited to be part of what we're doing in the future. Thank you so much for your generosity, your financial generosity, but the giving of your lives. I look forward to being together again soon, and thank you so much, Colonial Church.
Thank you, Jason, for your excellent report. We will now move into nominations for church officers and committees. For moderator, John Seberg. Vice moderator, Cheryl Southard. Treasurer, Jason Phillips. Secretary, Kathy Pinsky. Council members, Paul Seminari and Mary Fisher. For deacons, Senior Deacon Rich Nyquist, Senior Deacon Wendy Senior, and those deacons for a one-year term, Chris Clements, Rita Dauka, Bruce Moody, Tracy Moody, Kathy Satterbeck, Mel Satterbeck, and Barb Seberg. For a three-year term, Betty Bullion, Don Cook, Janet Havens, Sally McCartney, Stacy Rogers, Roy Terwilliger. For Finance Chair, Nancy Nelson Danielson. For Human Resources Chair, John Holden. For Vice Chair, David Lima. Nominating Chair, Jenny Bakke, and Foundation President, Lance Steinke. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you on April 26th at our virtual annual meeting. Thank you for participating.